There are a lot of colour analysis myths that are out there, and I want to bust a few of them for you today because I hear them over and over, and I just want you to know that these are myths, not truth. So the first one is that your palette never changes. You had your colours done 20 years ago and you're a spring or a winter or whatever, and you're still that. This is unlikely to be true. And this is because when you had only 4 seasons, there was nowhere for people to go. Now that we have lots of different palettes, so my absolute colour system has 18 different palettes, and so there's somewhere to go. There is a place to go. So when your hair colour changes, I used to have black hair, then dark brown hair, then slightly lighter dark brown hair, then I went blonde, and now I'm grey. The palette that I wore, it might still have the same undertone, but it's a different palette and it's now a different intensity as well. So colour palettes change with age. So I always recommend people get a new colour analysis every 5 to 10 years, or any time you go and make a radical hair colour change, because this will change both potentially your palette and also how you wear your colours, which is just as important. So how you put together your colours is impacted by your current appearance. So just because you had a colour analysis years ago doesn't mean that those are still the right colours for you today. So I do recommend getting a new colour analysis. Also too, colour systems are so much better than they were 20 and 30 years ago, even better than 15 years ago. And so therefore there are more nuanced palettes, there's more options, and so you're likely to get a much better fit than you did if you did it 20 or 30 years ago. So that is the first thing. The second myth, all freckles are warm. Often people think, oh, I've got freckles, I must be warm. Or I see this even people doing colour analysis where they make an assumption when a client walks through the door that the client's got freckles, they must be warm. Freckles are just a melanin. They are a sign of melanin in your skin, which is the, tanning thing, but it gives you pigment in your skin. And melanin, there's 2 sorts of melanin. There's a warm one and there's a cool one. So whatever is your undertone, you'll tend to get the same melanin as you have. And so don't assume that just because someone has freckles that they have to be warm, because freckles come on both warm and cool people. What's also really interesting about freckles, that if you're someone who is young with freckles, you'll often people hate their freckles when they're young. Often by the time you're 45 or 50 or 55, those freckles are pretty much disappeared. Freckles, interestingly, disappear with age. But freckles, not necessarily warm, can be cool. Another myth is that you can be neutral. Now, I have been doing colour analysis, and I have done it on thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the last 20 years, and I can tell you I've never met a neutral person. And I think this has come around because in many of the systems, they're a little bit extreme in their warmth and coolness. There are no options that are closer to the midline between warm and cool. And so they decide that you must be neutral because one of their extreme options doesn't work for you. So they go, oh, you must be neutral, you must be in the middle. But I can tell you, I've never met someone who wasn't either slightly warm or slightly cool. And this is why in my absolute colour system, I actually have 4 palettes that fit just either slightly warm or slightly cool, because it actually suits a lot of different people. There's a lot of people who don't have obvious warmth but are still warm, or have obvious coolness but are still cool. And so this is where those palettes sit, and this is why I have developed those palettes, because there's actually a lot of people who are not really extreme on the warm or the cool, and so a lot of those old systems do not work so well. Another one I've heard about and many people have read about is you can find your undertone from looking at the veins in your wrist. Now, I mean, honestly, I've looked at people's veins. I've looked at my own veins and I can't tell my colours from my veins. Because there's all sorts of different things that affect the veins in your wrist and the colour of the veins in your wrist. And this can be everything from how oxygenated your blood is, to how thick your skin is, to whether or not you have a very olive skin naturally, and so that may change the colour of what we're seeing through there. Or if you have very dark skin, trying to look for those veins can be very different. Also too, one of the things I've also noticed is that people tan, more hands and wrists get a lot more sunlight than often people have on their face, where you might wear a sunscreen on your face every day, but you're not necessarily doing your hands and wrists with sunscreen. And so this also will affect the way those veins look. What we're really looking for in colour analysis is how your skin on your face reacts when we put a colour next to it. We're saying, does it look brighter and more vibrant? Does it look duller? Do you look like you need a really good night's sleep? Is it giving you jowls you didn't have before and 5 o'clock shadow? Are you looking like, is your skin looking clear and is it looking more even? Those are the things we are looking for. And this is how your skin is reacting when we put a colour next to it. That's how we make those decisions, not based on veins in the wrist. So stop looking at the veins in your wrists. I think it's a losing battle. Another myth is that it is only for women. So this too is, yes, there's probably more women who come and have a colour analysis because there's more women who look for style and colour advice, because women's clothing is way more complex than men's. Men's is much easier. There's fewer body shape with men. There's less clothes. They don't have the skirts and dresses, unless you're one of the new, kind of metrosexuals who gets out there in whatever they want to wear. That's, great. But for men, traditionally, less clothing choices, less options. So not as, difficult in many ways. I think women have a much harder time of it. Bodies are more varied. There's more body bits that are more varied between different women. And so we have more of a struggle finding the clothes that really work for us. And colour is one part of that. But for men too, particularly, most men aren't wearing makeup like women wear, so they can't disguise, their under eye bags and put on a lipstick to make a colour work better. They don't have those options. So actually colour is really important for men, because what we want to do is find the right shirt colour so that you look really healthy and vibrant and alive and all those things that you want to look. Another one is that it really only works for fair skin. And this is because those original colour analysis systems were developed in Northern America and Northern Europe, which was a very Caucasian population. And so therefore it was only really tested on very, kind of Caucasian skins. It ignored all of Asia, of which there are a lot of different colourings in Asia. And it ignored India, and it ignored Africa. And there are a lot of different sorts of colours in Africa as well. And plus then we have all the mixed race. So this is where the old systems didn't work particularly well, but the new ones do work. And I know my absolute colour system, which is 18 palettes, has something for everybody. We have tested on every different skin tone. And being where I live in Melbourne, which is very multicultural, and we have had lots of Africans of different parts of Africa, lots of people who come from various parts of Asia, the Middle East, Greece and Italy, as well as, Northern Europe and everywhere like that. So I know it works because I have been testing it on many people for more than a decade. So this is where good colour systems work for every skin tone. The poor colour systems just don't work as well. So if you're struggling, if you've had colour analysis done and found that it didn't really work, well, that could be because the system you had it done with was not great, or sadly, the person who did it was not really experienced and didn't really understand the differences between different skin tones and what they were really looking for. And the final myth is that colour analysis is just for you to help you pick clothes, when in fact it's to help you pick everything from your nail polish to your glasses to your shoes to your handbag, every bit of makeup, all those sorts of things, every accessory relate back to your colour palette. It helps you, choose a hair colour if you're going to dye your hair. You name it, your palette can help you do that. And plus, I've had clients use their palette to interior decorate their house. They've chosen colour schemes for their house based on their colour palette because the colours in their palette naturally go together, which was why it makes it so easy to mix and match clothes in your wardrobe when you have a wardrobe full of clothes in your colour palette. It makes, you can get more outfits from fewer garments. Same thing, you can use your colour palette to find a, interior decorating scheme because those colours actually work together. They've got the same colour properties, and so they naturally work really well together. So it's very easy then to choose the carpet and the, the curtains and the throw cushions and all those different things that you have in your house. So they are 7 colour analysis myths that I wanted to bust. I hope that that's made you think maybe a little bit differently about colour and colour analysis and why it's important to get a new one every 5 to 10 years, depending on how your colouring's changed, because you do change, and systems now are available there to get you a really great nuanced palette that works for your current colouring. Thanks so much. Bye for now.